Good morning, Alabama State students in the field of social work. It is my absolute pleasure to be here with you this morning. My name is Phyllis Alston, and I'm going to talk this morning about professionalism and your being present at your social work internship. I have imagined this is a very exciting time for you at Alabama State as you are beginning to wrap up your journey in social work as a student and moving toward your professional life and social work employment. And so let's talk a little bit about what happens when you go into your internship, sometimes called field placements, and the things that you can do to maintain professionalism and to also maintain what we often call now being present. How excited are you? You are now going from the classroom to field placement. You are about to graduate, and that must be an overwhelming joy because of all the time and effort you have been putting into preparing for graduation. What are you going to do now that you are beginning to look at leaving Alabama State Undergraduate Social Work Program as a VSW? Will you be searching for a job, or will you be going to graduate school? I certainly hope that most of you are saying graduate school. For after all, with the graduate MSW, you earn more money and you get better promotions. But in the process, please have a little fun and celebrate, remembering that we are in the midst of COVID. So we're going to remain distant, 6 feet, and wear masks. I have entitled the presentation together, Puzzle Pieces That Spell Success in Your Internship. The first piece of the puzzle I call appearance. The first piece of the puzzle I call appearance. Let's look first at what it all means. What does it mean, your appearance? Personal grooming matters. Dressing to impress matters. Be sharp, be organized. Know the dress code for your agency. Be sure your clients are not turned off by your appearance. Look around, look around. Do you fit in? It is your job to fit in at your placement. It's unfair, but it's true that people often judge us by our appearance. While we say, I'm smart, I'm alert, I know the job, I can get the job done, what I wear should not matter, I agree with you. But that is not what happens. When people see us coming, they judge us by our appearance. And so if we are neat, if we are immaculately dressed, then we probably get a better look than someone who's disheveled and not dressed neatly. Know the dress code of your agency. Some agencies are much more formal than others, and so it all depends on the kind of office you're going to. My suggestion is that you look around at your office and see what people in your office are wearing. How do they dress? That's a clue for you. No matter what you put on, you need to be comfortable. You must be comfortable and look the way you feel good. When you walk out of your house, your apartment, each morning, your dorm room, wherever it is that you get dressed, once you walk out, you want to look confident. You want to look as though you're ready for the world. After all, that's what the Alabama State says, preparing you for the world. In other words, appearance matters. Proper demeanor. Proper demeanor. And you're saying, what do you mean, Phyllis Alston, about proper demeanor? I'm saying proper demeanor matters not only in person, but also on social media. Who you are transcends space. Nowadays, new employees, yes, and field placements check Facebook, they check YouTube, they check TikTok. They want to know what you have out on social media and whether or not the things that you have out there will embarrass them. They want to know whether or not you will fit in to their organization's culture. And so we must be careful, all of us. When I say you, I mean me as well, because I love Facebook. I'm always forever posting. And so I have to be careful with what I post. And so the first thing I want to say when it comes to proper demeanor is that show confidence, but not cockiness. You must walk as though you own the world. Alabama State has prepared you for the world. And so show confidence. Build relationships. And I suggest to you that you get to know everyone from the janitor to the director of the department. Smile, talk to people, be engaging. Show a cooperative attitude. Once you walk into work, all of the world may have blown up on you the night before. Things may have gone very badly for you on your way to work. But once you get to work, make every effort to put all of the negative things behind you and show up with a cooperative attitude. Speak clearly and speak up. Mumbling does not work. I know some of you are probably saying, well, I'm just a quiet person. And it's okay to be that quiet person, but you must also be heard. Your voice cannot be heard unless you speak up and speak clearly. Remember your body language. Your body language speaks volumes. I can tell you that if you say, I love you with a smile, the kind of smile you use when you say it will tell people whether you truly love them or not. I'll tell you a little story about working in psychiatry at the Tuskegee VA Medical Center some many, many years ago. One of the psychiatric patients came up to me and said, Ms. Alston, I need a different social worker. I said, why do you need a different social worker? My social worker does not care about me. And I asked, well, why do you say that? Surely she cares. She's helping you every day. And his response was, no, she's not helping me. When she's talking to me, her face is looking at me, but her feet are turned in a different direction. And I thought to myself, well, that's kind of strange because normally we can turn our heads sideways and look forward and turn it another way. But our feet, when we're talking to people, are always going in one direction, forward. What he was saying to me was, I don't have her attention. She's walking away from me, even though her face is facing me. And so your body language matters. It matters that you pay close attention and look at your people in the eye that you're talking to, and that you show that you are present. Be enthusiastic to learn. The I don't care attitude is not permissible. Be enthusiastic and show that you are indeed present and eager to learn all that you can learn. Demonstrate initiative. You can always ask for additional work. You can ask for an expansion of a task that you have been given. You can show that you are a sponge and that you want to learn all that you can learn while you are in this internship. And the last thing I say about proper demeanor is to always remember you represent Alabama State University. Right now, I work for another university in the state of Mississippi, and we have had an internship with an agency for well over 20 years. They had that relationship before I even started working for that university. We are now about to lose it because of the demeanor of a couple of students who went in with very negative attitudes, doing some things they should not have done, not following instructions. And so they not only got the internship terminated for themselves, unless we are able to do some fast talking, we will lose that internship for other students. So please remember your demeanor, your attitude, your ability to form relationships and to work with people What you carry into your internship represents not only you, but it also represents Alabama State University. And when you leave, you want people to be able to say, we love Alabama State students, and we want them to come back. Be welcoming, be caring, be supportive, be collaborative, communicate, have some humor. It's okay, but be careful with the humor. You don't want it to be, you don't want your humor to hurt people or to look as though you're laughing at people. Laughing with, acceptable. Laughing at, unacceptable. Be adaptable, be respectful, be patient. Be patient. I know that I'm going to talk a little bit about supervision, but I know there will be times when you will think your supervisor is not responding to you quickly enough. And more than likely, she won't be or he won't be. But that's where your patience kicks in, and you must be patient, be helpful, be understanding. By all means, show respect for all people. You will run into in your agencies people who come from all walks of life, people who have different abilities, people who come from different economic backgrounds. Your job is to respect everyone. That's what we as social workers do. So be present in your demeanor, both in person, and go now and check your social media to be sure there's not anything out there that misrepresents you or Alabama State. The next puzzle, the piece of the puzzle is for you to be reliable. The next piece of the puzzle is for you to be reliable. Reliable people are on time. They respond to assignments properly. They follow through. They understand and exceed expectations. They volunteer for assignments. And they clarify everything when in doubt. When in doubt, not when he is doubt. I'll correct that slide. When in doubt, ask. When in doubt, ask. Reliability in an internship is absolutely fundamental. Your job is to always be on time. And on time is not walking through the door at 8 a.m. if that's the time you should be there. It's being at your desk and ready to work at 8 a.m. Respond to assignments promptly. Now, it could be that your supervisors will be a little tardy with meeting with you, a tad tardy with responding to your questions, but your job is to respond to assignments promptly, not to be in any form or fashion, delayed with completing tasks. Always follow through, always follow through. And if you have questions that are hindering you from following through, then be the person to say, I need help. Help me understand what I should do. Help me follow through. Understand and exceed expectations. Alabama State has been preparing you for the world. And so in your preparation for the world, you cannot be mediocre. You must be the person who stands out in that black and gold, fully representing. Volunteer for assignments. Now, I know you say sometimes, well, I don't need to volunteer for anything. I'll just do what's asked of me. Then that's just being status quo. You want to exceed what's expected. Exceed. Clarify everything. When in doubt, ask. The next part of the puzzle of competence that I want to acknowledge is competence. Competence. Observe your surroundings. Always be observant of what's going on around you. And observing your surroundings and in seeing what other people in the agency do will help you determine what your actions should be, will help you determine how you fit into the culture of the organization that you're interning with. Number one, strive to become an expert in your field. In this thing that we call social work, there's no room for you to not be the very best at whatever it is you choose to do. So first and foremost, in the area of competence, you want to strive to become an expert in your field. I want to pause here to say being an expert just means that you don't just stop learning when you get that BSW in your hand, or even if you go on to school and get the MSW. Being an expert in your field means that you will not only attend workshops and conferences in your specialty in social work, but that you will also become a presenter in your expert field. If you choose to focus on mental health and you get yourself decide on which theory best suits you, and you get to be very competent in your clinical skills, you not only should practice those skills, you should present and train other people. So as you become competent, strive to become competent and an expert in your field. Set your goals on being not only an expert as a practitioner, but also as an expert in training other people. Evaluate your performance. Evaluate your competence. Here I want to pause to talk about going online and looking for a website called 123test.com. And if you can, I'm referring you to this one because it's one I've pulled up a couple of times and referred students to it. It gives you the opportunity to take a free online competency test. A free online competency test. Look for the free ones, don't pay money. These competency tests will help you evaluate where you are personally and professionally, and help you to set goals for where you want to go in this thing called social work. Now, this particular competency test is not particular to social work. It's just a professional competency test that you can take. There are close to 150 questions. I know that's a lot, and it doesn't take very long to answer them because you're encouraged to answer the questions quickly. And at the end, it gives you a score. I want to share with you just some of the questions on this competency test that you can take on a website entitled 123test.com. The scoring guide tells you that you will give a 1 for the statements. That statements does not apply to me at all or never applies. 2, this statement applies to me slightly, sometimes applies. 3, the statement applies to me a fair bit, regularly applies. 4, the statement certainly does not apply to me or often does not. Number 5, this statement applies to me completely, always applies. And I think I read number 4 wrong, so I'm going to read it again. Number 4, this statement certainly does apply to me or often applies. And number 5, this statement applies to me completely, always applies. Don't think too long about the statements. There are no right or wrong answers. It's all about you. You fill in the questionnaire, which should take about 20 minutes, and try to do it in one go without interruptions. Here are just a few of the questions asked of you as you determine your level of competence. Why not take out a pen? I'll pause for a minute, and a piece of paper, and write down whether or not, you don't have to do the various gradations of it, but just determine whether or not these things apply to you, yes or no. Just for our little exercise, if you pull out a piece of paper and just look at it and say, well, yeah, this applies to me, or no, it does not. Because when you go online to take it, you'll get a clear picture, but I do want you to understand some of the questions asked. One question: is capable of adequately persuading others about something. Are you able to persuade others about something. Number 2, often spontaneously takes charge or is appointed by others as a leader. Do you take charge or are you appointed by others to be a leader? Think back over your classes at Alabama State when you have had group assignments. Were you the leader of the pack or were you the follower? Number 3, is capable of performing tasks that require protracted, hard work. Some assignments have very intricate details. Some we can do right away, not thinking so much about what, who, what, when, and where, just doing it. Others require a lot of effort. So the question is, are you capable of performing tasks that require protracted, hard effort? What are the next questions? Do you take other people's wishes, aims, and idiosyncrasies into account? Do you take other folks, on here they don't say other folks. On here they say other people's wishes, aims, and idiosyncrasies into account? Do you consider the thoughts, the passions, the concerns of other people? Yet another question asks, if you have clear goals for your future, do you see the end of your social work career? I've been in this thing 50 years, and I can tell you, I did not always see the end. I can tell you that even now, as I look at retiring after this year, I'm not so sure I see the end of my social work career. I do have goals and things that I would still like to do. But as you think about your own competence, do you have clear goals for your social work future? Yet another question asked, can you draw up plans and budgets that are accurate? Can you draw up plans and budgets that are accurate? You're judging here your competence. Do you speak clearly so that everyone understands you? Do you speak clearly so that everyone understands you? Do you arrive at good decisions quickly, or do you need a lot of time to think it through? Do you arrive at good decisions quickly? Let's just do a few more. Are you able to persevere even if others start to have doubts about whether or not the goal is achievable? Do you persevere? I watched Alabama State beat Jackson State about a week ago. Alabama State persevered. And because Alabama State persevered, Alabama State won. They showed great competence on the football field. We must do the same in social work. We should always have a battle plan, never give up, and always be in a position of wanting to win. Yet another question on this 149 question competency test is, can you manage to adapt properly when circumstances change? I often hear a lot of people, not so much students, but people old like me, who will say, I hate change. I went into a grocery store that I often visit, and they had changed all of the aisles around. And I was so frustrated, I almost left, but I needed some things, so I stayed. So are you able to adapt to change? Let's just do a few more. Are you sensitive to nonverbal cues, body languages, and gestures? Extremely, extremely important for social workers. Are you able to not only hear what people are saying, but also to read their body language? Are you able to ensure perfect results by means of thorough checks and monitoring? Can you monitor what you're doing to assure accurate outcomes? I'm going to flip to the back for a couple more that I have identified. These are the last two. This one is extremely important, I think. Are you able to notice the effect of your behavior on others? Are you able to notice the effect of your behavior on others? And I'm going to add, do you care? Do you care how you affect others? Strive to become expert in your field, being super competent in all that you do. The final one, can you genuinely implement decisions, even if this proves harder than anticipated? I can tell you, are you able to implement decisions, even if this proves harder than you anticipate? I will tell you another little story about I was coordinator of field placement also for the VA. We had Alabama State students, Tuskegee University students, Auburn students, and we had a student from a school in Texas, Our Lady of the Lake University. And so I have not mentioned the school. I'm gonna tell you about a student about, but I haven't mentioned that school because I don't want you guessing or trying to think from whence the student came. We had a student who would show up for his internships, also poorly groomed and not smelling well. And he was a male, and because he was male and I'm female, I asked the chief of the department, who's male, to talk to him about his grooming and how he had to not show up at work smelling, and so with poor hygiene. And the chief of the service said, no, that's your job. You're overfilled, and you can't just hand off an unpleasant assignment just because you don't want to. And so I tried to explain, it's not that I don't want to. If I were talking to a female, no problem, I could do that. But don't you think it would be better, I said to the chief of the department, if a male talked to him rather than a female, so as not to embarrass him? He said, he's going to be embarrassed no matter who tells him, is what the chief of the service said. I'm not going to do it. It's your responsibility. You must do it. And so, with much anxiety and not wanting to accept this responsibility, I did have a conversation with the young man, found out a whole lot about him that we needed to know about his circumstances and why he was showing up for field the way he was. Turned out he was homeless, but determined to stay in school and living in his car and having some issues beyond anything that I imagined. I thought he was just being irresponsible, when in fact he was doing the very best he can. So then it had to turn from being field instructor to being social worker, and helping him find not only some place to live, but some place where he could live free, because he had no money. And so I turned to some other social workers on the staff. We all got together and we were able to make a difference with this young man. And I can tell you right now, he's doing great things. No longer in the state of Alabama. He moved back to his home in New Jersey or New York or one of those places, but doing really great wherever he is. Every 2 or 3 years, I hear from him, and when we laugh about the conversation that I had with him, and he said he could tell that I was nervous and not wanting to talk to him, and he already knew what I was going to talk to him about, but it worked out. Competent people have to face difficult tasks head on and to do them well. And so I encourage you to take this online test. And if not this one, if this one is too long, look for some other online test that will help you look at competency and where you are on the competency scale. So and then this will also help you to always be in a place where you are evaluating your performance. Be the leader of the pack. Strive to be the leader. And so somebody sitting and listening to this is saying, Ms. Alston, I'll be a good follower, but I really don't want to be the leader. And I'm telling you, that's unacceptable. At Alabama State, you are being trained to be leaders. And so you must be leaders of the pack. Attend any seminars or workshops offered by your placement. This will increase your competence. They should be free to you. If you're in the Department of Human Resources, if you're in mental health, if you're in the school systems, there may be opportunities for you to attend trainings that they sponsor. Look for them, ask your supervisors about them, and attend those workshops or seminars. See if there are committee meetings that you can attend. For example, if you are placed with the Department of Human Resources, the Department of Human Resources, I'm sure, Montgomery County, Macon County, Bullock County, wherever you are, those county offices have periodic staff meetings. They have performance improvement meetings, all kinds. See if you can sit in on those meetings to see and understand, to see and get an understanding of how the agency functions at all levels. Ask for an audience with the director of your placement. Have your questions already prepared. How did you get to this position? What did it take for you to become director? What are the things I can do to prepare myself to be the director of such a department? Have your questions already in place, maybe 5 or 6 of them, and ask them boldly, but politely and with respect. Ask for an audience just to get to know the director of your department. Be a sponge. Grasp all the learning opportunities that are available to you. Communication, here we go. You have written so many papers that until you don't want to know about writing one more thing, I'm sure. But in social service agencies, we are known to say, if you don't write it down, you have not done it. So it is incumbent upon you to always be able to write clearly and for people to be able to understand your message. First of all, understand the documentation policy for that agency. Those things are different. When you talk to other people in field and they tell you, well, I don't have to document that, or I don't have to do psychosocial assessments, then you can't take the attitude, neither do I. You take your cues from what's expected of you at the agency. So understand the documentation policy for your agency. When you write, be clear, be concise, be specific. Now, I like to tell students, when you write and when you document not for the doctor's understanding, which means if you document for the doctors, then you may feel as though you need to write big words and show how competent you are when it comes to using the English language. Write for an 8th grade audience. If you write as though you're writing for an 8th grade audience, your writing will be clearer. It will not be loaded with words where people have to try to make an effort to understand what you're saying, and it will be much more concise. Be clear, be concise, be specific. When you write, leave emotions in your pocket. Document the facts. Give the facts, be brief and to the point. You don't have to embellish it as though you're writing a novel. You're only writing documentation to be clear as to what you have done with your clients. Keep your tone polite and formal. No use of slang language. Remember, written communication is a paper trail. This is an instance where you want to create a paper scale because you want to create a paper trail because you want people to understand exactly what you have done with your client. Use spell checker, and I can also say, because when I was young and starting out as you will be in documenting, we had a typewriter and whiteout. You have computers and backspace. Use your backspace, use spell checker, use grammar checker. And when you hit send, be sure you're sending exactly what you intend to convey in your writing. Remember email etiquette 101. Never, ever write in capital letters. All over the world, that is shouting. Compose letters, emails, text messages as though they were going to court. Compose letters, emails, text messages, whatever you document, compose those items as though they were going to court. And I can tell you in my career as a social worker, I have been subpoenaed to court twice subpoenaed. My records were also subpoenaed. When the attorneys and the judges read my records, I did not have to go. The records spoke for themselves. Be sure that you're writing clearly and that if a judge or an attorney at some point needs to know what you have written, it is clear and you don't have to raise your hand, promising to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, but your records will speak for you. Written communication, your tone, and all the things that you say, your style, goes from you, the writer, to the reader. And no matter what the mood is of the reader, if what your tone is specific, it's clear, it's brief and to the point, then the mood of the reader, of the receiver, does not matter. Communicating orally. Communicating orally. When you talk to people, you want to look them in the face, but you don't want to stare. I sometimes students say, well, Ms. Alston, if somebody looks you in the face, they're staring at you. There's a difference between looking and glaring. You know the difference. When you speak orally, you want to look people in the face. You want to avoid fillers while speaking. Things like, wait a minute, what you say? Avoid those. Think in your head what you want to say and then say it. You can always give yourself a few seconds to compose your answers or your remarks in your head before you speak. Avoid interrupting people when they are speaking. Let them get to a pause. I say, let them get to the end of their sentence and look at you, which indicates they have finished speaking before you interrupt. Try to listen completely to what the other person is saying before you start formulating your answer in your head. Get a clear understanding of what's being said to you. I've said make eye contact. In your training in social work, you've heard about I statements. You've heard about asking questions or paraphrasing. Use that. Use those skills that you have developed. Ask questions or paraphrase. I'm saying again, even as you speak orally, as you communicate orally, watch your body language. It speaks volumes. Listen carefully. Listen carefully. Early morning recording. Listen carefully. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. 2 ears, listen carefully. 1 mouth, speak after considering carefully what you will say. Avoid slang and broken English. When you speak in a language that only you understand, then the listener leaves not knowing what you meant. Let's speak as a professional, you want to speak in a language that everyone understands. And for us, that is primarily English, although it would help if you would learn Spanish, because increasingly that language is needed in our work world. And last but not least, think before you speak. What you think happened, both orally and in your written communications, what you think happened is not worth a hill of beans. What you know is worth your weight in gold. What you think, if it's not the facts, not worth a bag of beans. What you know is worth your weight in gold. Last thing I want to say about communicating both orally and in writing. Everything that comes to your mind, everything that enters your head should not be made public. You will be in some situations where you want to say some things and you're thinking to yourself, oh Lord, I need to speak up here. Choose your interventions carefully. Everything that comes to your head does not need to be made public. Accountability is the next piece of the puzzle to maintaining professionalism in your internship. Think, plan, and then act. Do not act without thinking it through and making a plan. Listen to your field instructors. I cannot stress enough the importance of you listening to your field instructors. You operate, you function, you work in your field assignments under the names and the licenses of the social work supervisors, of the social workers who supervise you. They are accountable for all of your actions. And so respect them and the fact that whatever you do is a reflection of who they are. And so it's incumbent upon you to listen to your supervisors. Be open and accepting of supervision. Now let's talk a little bit about supervisors and your professional relationships with them. We're going to acknowledge that supervisors have a variety of styles or preferences for how they do things on their jobs. As you communicate with and process with other students in different internships, some of them may tell you, oh, I have this beautiful office and my supervisor allows me free reign and I do this, that, and the third. Well, your supervisor might not be that kind of person. She might be a bit more controlling. So let's just talk for a minute about supervision. Some supervisors focus mostly on the task necessary to get the job done, whereas others may focus on the interactions or processes required to get the job done. Some prefer to make decisions alone. They'll give you free reign in an assignment until you do it, come back and let me know how you have done. Others will micromanage you to the bone. And you, so much so that it will make you weary. That is who they are. It's not a reflection of you and your skills. It's the type of supervisor that they are. Some may make decisions quickly, whereas others will take more time. Some prefer routines and clear procedures, so they will not be caught unprepared. Some supervisors may be thinking about the last student they had who needed a whole lot of hand-holding in order to stay out of trouble. Whereas others may be thinking, you know, the last student I had was really great. I could give them free reign and let them go. You're walking in the shadows of other students, and those other students do not necessarily belong to your school. It could be they could have been from any number of schools. And so remember, you're walking in the shadow of a previous student, which means you want to leave a shadow that's acceptable and positive. Some pay attention to the details of the work. Some supervisors will take your write-ups and they'll have so much red on them when you get back, you'll think they bled on your paper. Whereas others will say, I think you could write this a little differently and give it back to you. Some supervisors will closely monitor you and your work, assuming that things can and will go wrong, whereas others assume everything is fine unless someone says there is a problem. In your role as a student, you must adjust to the supervision styles of the people who are supervising you, or rather the person. So be open and accepting of supervision. Accept and use constructive feedback. I hate the word criticism. Criticism in itself sounds so negative to me. And so I have said, accept and use constructive feedback. If your field instructor is not giving you any feedback, then that field instructor is showing a great disservice to you. And so I'm saying, accept it and use it. Remain on the job as scheduled. You can't be in and out, flouncing in and out as you see fit. Now, I know sometimes you feel, well, I've got a doctor appointment. I've got a dental appointment. I need to pick my daughter up from daycare earlier today. You must talk these things over with your field instructor. You can't just leave and then come back the next day and everybody's asking, where did you go? And nobody knows that you had an issue that you needed to deal with. So I'm saying to you, by all means, we understand in field placements that students have issues they must deal with, that you have places and things that you must get done even in the midst of your internship. But remain on the job, discuss any issues that you have that will require you to be away. And by all means, communicate with your field instructor. Ask for help when needed. Keep socializing at a minimum. And now when I say this with some reluctance. Because of the nature of social work, sometimes our jobs cause much anxiety and grief on our part. And in many social work agencies, people bring in donuts, they bring in coffee, they bring in snacks. They have a snack room where everybody will gather to laugh and talk for a minute. Observe the culture of your organization and see how they interact with each other when they let their hair down. And so when they do that, then you can do the same. So when I say socializing, that means you can't put your radio on in your office or in the space that they give you and have it blasting all over the building. You can't bring in food that smells up to high heaven when you put it in the microwave, when you notice that there are no odors of that nature. These are the small things you have to notice that make you accountable, and that you don't want people looking at you saying you're out of the norm. So be careful with what you do and how you do it. And by all means, notice how socialization occurs within your agency. Accountability. I want to leave you with these words about accountability that come from a guy whose name is Edward Everett Hale. Mr. Hale says, I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do some things. I will not let what I cannot do interfere with what I can do. Accountability. I will not allow what I cannot do interfere with what I can do. Be keenly aware of what you can do, and by all means, do that. Organizational skills. I mentioned to you how organized Alabama State was when they beat Jackson State about a week ago. The Hornets did not give up. They were organized to the T. They had a coach. They followed the coach. They had a team. They had team leaders who also led. In anything that we do, we must be as organized as the Alabama State football team was when they played Jackson. And so what are your organizational requirements as a professional social worker? Number one, keep your work area neat and organized. Don't be a mess. Now, I know your supervisor's desk is going to look like she's a hoarder and she'll have papers stacked up all over everywhere, but I'll bet you $10, well, no, maybe $5. I'll bet you that she can pull out anything on that desk that she needs. But that doesn't mean that you starting out as a social worker should follow that example. Keep your area neat and organized. Be able to quickly find anything that you need. Anything that you need, be able to find it in your desk or in your files. Bring to work only the things you need to work. In other words, you're not going to set up your small business in your field placement office. If you're making business cards and selling them in order to get through school, you're going to have to do that at night at home. You can't bring your business cards into the workplace. If you're selling Easter baskets, because it's coming up Easter, you cannot bring all of those baskets and the contents for them into your field placement and make baskets when you should be doing your field placement. Bring to work only the things you need to work. Keep an appointment book, a phone, or phone calendar. I'm old school. I still keep a calendar, a paper calendar, and for the month, I must be able to see a month at a time. But the phone works for, I'm sure, for you guys, because you're younger and that's what you're accustomed to the technology. I have begun to use my phone and to put certain meetings on my phone, and it'll remind me, and I put in the reminders so that it will remind me 24 hours before I'm expected to be someplace, and then it will remind me 2 hours before. Update your calendar regularly. If you're prone to forget deadlines, add an alert to your phone. What can you do? Can you use a weekly, a monthly, or yearly planner? We're all different. You know what it takes for you to meet your obligations. What can you use to organize yourself so that you are where you should be at all times? Maintain your ASU Hornet poise and pride. Maintain your ASU Hornet poise and pride. Maintain composure even when facing difficult situations. I kind of doubt it, but in rare instances, some things may come up that really tick you off, get you upset, and make you want to sting like this hornet. You can't do it. You must always remain in a place where you are in control of who you are, and that you remain not only cool and calm, but you remain collected. Keep reports factual and to the point. Do not express your anger or your dissatisfaction in your reports. Keep personal baggage to yourself. There may be some things that really upset you and some things that throughout your whole life have upset you. Those things are personal. Remember when you discussed in maybe more than one class, boundaries? We maintain the boundaries. Remember, we maintain boundaries. I think I should have put that here instead of keep personal baggage to yourself. I'm going to change this slide. And right here, I'm going to put respect boundaries. Maintain your integrity, your credibility, and your reputation. I've already said to you, you represent not only yourselves, but you represent Alabama State and you represent the social work department. Diffuse the situation by maintaining a professional demeanor. When two people are arguing, the argument is quickly diffused when one person refuses to engage. When there is an argument between two people, the argument is quickly diffused when one person refuses to engage in the argument. Be the person who can walk away and who can diffuse any situation. As we near the end of my presentation, I do want to mention ethical behavior. We don't even have to wonder what our ethical behavior should be. The National Association of Social Workers Code of Ethics, NASW Code of Ethics, has already set that out for us. Ethical principles, just as you review, you already know these, but let's review them just as you prepare to go into field. Ethical principles. Value is service. The principal social workers' primary goal is to help people in need and to address social problems. The value, social justice. Social workers challenge social injustice. And I think as we look at the efforts to roll back voting in these United States, as we look at what's happening to immigrants who try to come into this country, as we look at all of the issues that surround us now, we see a place for social work when it comes to dealing with injustices. The next one, number 3, dignity and worth of the person. Social workers respect the inherent dignity and worth of the person. We respect every person. Number 4, the importance of human relationships. Social workers recognize the central importance of human relationships. Number 5, integrity. Social workers behave in a trustworthy manner. And the last one, I've just spent a great deal of time talking about competence. Social workers practice within their areas of competence and develop and enhance their professional expertise. Please remember, getting the BSW is not the end of your training. It's just the beginning. Finally, I want to talk about being present at your internship. Being present at your internship. There was a time when being present meant your instructor would call the roll, Joe Smo, and you would say, present. Well, being present has been expanded, and it means a bit more now. I want to offer you 10 tips to help you be present. And all it means is being focused on the moment. Being present in a nutshell says you will be focused on the moment. But you first got to identify the moment. If you're in your internship and you're talking with a patient and your cell phone rings and it's your buddy, and you know your buddy is not calling you about your internship, when you answer the phone, you are out of the moment that you should be in, because the moment is your internship and focusing on the needs of your client. And so it behooves you to turn the phone off and to remain in the moment by identifying the importance of the moment that you are in. Deal with the moment you're in, let all other things drift away. Listen without intending to respond. Sometimes we can listen to our clients, let them talk. I think you have heard more than one time narrative theory. Narrative theory. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a narrative. And when your clients show up at your doorstep, they come with their narratives. We should be in a position to listen without interrupting, without responding. Be okay without knowing everything. I know that we like to know every specific part of any situation. It's important to us that we know those things. We can't know everything. Our brain, our computers, will crash if we try to know everything. Now, that doesn't say you should not get to know as much as you can about everything that you're working on. Of course, you're going to do that. But be okay if you don't know everything. Listen to your instincts. If your hair stands up on the back of your neck, it's telling you something. If your stomach kind of gets upset when in a situation, it's telling you something. If your brain tells you stop and listen, it's telling you something. We talk about the 5 senses. I talk about 6. That is instinct. Listen to your instincts. In your mind, acknowledge how you feel. You can acknowledge when things are not going right to yourself, and you can say, I'm not feeling this, but at the same time, you must remain professional and not show it. Be grateful for the small things, the fact that you woke up this morning, the fact that you were able to get dressed and show up for field, the fact that in this age of COVID-19 and viruses, and vaccines, you have a field placement. At the university where I currently work, we had an awfully hard time finding internships for students. because agencies went into lockdown and social workers were working from home. And so we had an awful time. Be grateful for small things. One small thing being a large thing, and that is the fact that you have an internship. If you're ever feeling stuck, take a minute, take stock of what's going on inside of you and around you, and find a different approach. Sometimes put it on hold, save it for another day. Embrace your playful side. Embrace your playful side. We're talking about being present. Embrace your playful side. Savor your rituals. And what kind of rituals do you have? What kind of rituals do you have? When you're brushing your teeth in the morning, can you focus not on getting to field placement, but just on the fact that you're brushing your teeth up and down and ins and out and the swabbing around? Can you focus on taking a shower? What it means to just take a shower and think about the shower and not be thinking, not doing it ropely, as in rote, but doing it and taking stock of why you're doing what you're doing when you're taking your shower. We must practice being in the moment, even when we're not working. Being in the moment and realizing where you are and being attentive and attuned to exactly what you're doing at all times requires a great deal of practice. Being in the moment also means you're not multitasking. Being in the moment means you're not trying to do 20 things at one time. You're doing that one thing and you're focusing with all your mind, body, and soul on completing that one task. Realize deeply that the present moment is all you have. Make the now the primary focus of your professional life. I put my phone on silent, or thought I did, while I was filming this presentation for field students, and it rang. I thought I had put it on silent. It rang once since I have been talking with you. That moment could have distracted me. I hit the little thing that makes it hang up and continued to talk with you because I have had the responsibility of being in this moment with you and not being distracted by anything else, but being in this moment with you. I want to share with you a little poem, a little ditty that is that I'm sure some of you have heard it. There was the mayor of Tuskegee who used to say this quite often. Mayor Omar Neal is a former mayor of Tuskegee, and he uses this little poem quite often. But it was written by Dr. Benjamin E. Mays. Dr. Mays was the sixth president of Morehouse College. He was the sixth president of Morehouse College. Served as president for 30 years. That was a long time to be president of that university. I'm sure he spent a lot of minutes in the moment. But this is what Dr. Mays says. I have only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, can't refuse it. Didn't seek it, didn't choose it. But it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. I say to you, be present in your minutes. You are a hornet. Hornets play to win. Winners are professional and present at all times. You are a hornet. Hornets play to win. Winners are professional and present at all times. My last little story. I was scooting across the campus of the Tuskegee VA Medical Center years and years ago, with lots of papers in my arms and rushing to a meeting. Psychiatric patient stopped me. Miss Alston, slow down. Slow down. You're going too fast. Don't walk so fast. Stop and smell the roses, he said. I said, you know what? You're right. I can just slow myself down. I have some time. I'll stop and smell the roses. As life would have it, we were standing next to a rose bed, beautiful red and yellow roses. The grounds of the Tuskegee VA Medical Center were absolutely beautiful in the spring. And so the roses were in bloom. And as I started toward the roses to smell one of them, he said, but don't let a bee go up your nose. I'm saying to you, stop and smell the roses, be present in time, but don't let a bee go up your nose. You are a hornet. Hornets play to win. Winners are professional and present at all times. As I stop, share, and as I leave you with this. You have chosen the greatest profession, I think, of all. You have chosen a profession that allows you to help others. Isn't that a wonderful thing to do? As you do it, be professional, of course, be present, but also take care of yourselves. Find a hobby that makes you happy. I've traveled all over this world, and I've seen some magnificent sights. Find something that makes you happy. Find a partner in life who complements you. Someone to whom you can turn when you walk through your door in the middle of, at the end of the day, and that person can say, welcome home, and there's peace and love abiding there. Go in peace. Be careful as we continue through this thing called COVID-19, and I hope we will meet again.